Welcome to Amazing Aviation Mishaps. I'm your host, executive producer, retired Captain Gary Ray. Today we're diving deep into one of the most remarkable stories in aviation history, United Airlines Flight 232 and the miracle of Sioux City. On July 19, 1989, United Airlines Flight 232 departed Denver's Stapleton International Airport at 2:09 p.m., bound for Chicago with 296 souls on board. Captain Alfred C. Haynes, a 33-year veteran pilot, commanded the McDonnell Douglas DC-10 alongside First Officer William Records and flight engineer Dudley Dvorak. What started as a routine flight would become one of aviation's most incredible displays of crew resource management and human ingenuity. The aircraft climbed to its cruising altitude of 37,000 feet and settled into what appeared to be an uneventful journey. For over an hour, everything proceeded normally. But at 3:16 p.m., everything changed in an instant. A violent jolt shook the aircraft, accompanied by a thunderous bang that reverberated through the cabin. The autopilot immediately disengaged, and Captain Haynes quickly realized that the number 2 engine had suffered a catastrophic failure. The fan disc of the number 2 engine had literally exploded. This massive titanium component, weighing over 300 pounds and spinning at tremendous speed, had developed a fatigue crack over its 18-year service life. The crack, caused by an impurity in the steel from its 1971 manufacturing, had grown silently over 43,401 flight hours until it finally gave way with explosive force. When the disc shattered, it sent approximately 70 pieces of high-velocity shrapnel through the aircraft's tail section. These fragments severed all 3 of the DC-10's independent hydraulic systems. In one catastrophic moment, Captain Haynes and his crew lost all conventional means of controlling their aircraft. The DC-10 relies entirely on hydraulic pressure to move its flight controls. The aircraft has 3 completely independent hydraulic systems, each with its own pumps, reservoirs, and supply lines, specifically designed so that no single failure could disable all 3. But Flight 232 had encountered what engineers call a common mode failure, a single event that defeats multiple redundant systems. Flight engineer Dvorak stared at his instrument panel in disbelief. All 3 hydraulic pressure gauges read 0. All 3 quantity gauges showed empty. Captain Haynes attempted to move the control wheel, but it was frozen. The aircraft began banking steadily to the right, and by all normal expectations, United Flight 232 should have been uncontrollable and doomed. But Captain Haynes and his crew were not ordinary pilots. They immediately began thinking outside the box, literally inventing a new way to fly their aircraft. They realized that while they had lost control of the flight surfaces, they still had control of the 2 remaining wing-mounted engines. Could they use differential thrust to steer the aircraft? First Officer Records made the crucial call. United 232, we are declaring an emergency and requesting a vector to the nearest suitable airport. Air traffic control immediately began clearing a path and identified Sioux City Gateway Airport as the closest facility capable of handling a DC-10. That's when fate intervened in the form of Dennis Fitch. Captain Dennis Fitch, a United Airlines DC-10 training instructor, happened to be deadheading in the first-class cabin. When he heard the captain's announcement about hydraulic problems, he immediately made his way to the cockpit. "I'm a DC-10 instructor," he told the crew. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Captain Haynes later said that seeing Fitch was like having an angel walk into the cockpit. Fitch took position at the throttle quadrant, using his intimate knowledge of the DC-10 systems to make the minute power adjustments needed to maintain some semblance of control. The improvised control technique they developed was unlike anything in aviation procedures. To turn left, they would reduce power on the left engine and increase it on the right. To turn right, they would do the opposite. To control pitch, they would add power to climb and reduce power to descend. But the aircraft's response was sluggish and unpredictable, with significant delays between throttle inputs and aircraft response. For 44 minutes, the crew wrestled with their crippled aircraft, slowly learning how to fly it using only engine thrust. They managed to keep the DC-10 aloft and even execute turns, something that should have been impossible. Air traffic control vectored them towards Sioux City, clearing all other traffic from the area. The approach to Sioux City was unlike anything in aviation history. The aircraft was coming in much faster than normal, about 240 knots instead of the typical 140 knots for landing. They had no flaps to increase lift and reduce speed, no spoilers to increase descent rate, and no brakes to stop once they touched down. Captain Haynes briefed the passengers with characteristic honesty. "This is going to be a crash landing. Please review your emergency procedures. We need your cooperation." He didn't sugarcoat the situation, but he also didn't create panic. His straightforward approach allowed passengers and cabin crew to prepare mentally and physically for what was to come. The emergency response at Sioux City was equally remarkable. By pure coincidence, the airport and surrounding hospitals had conducted a mass casualty drill just 2 years earlier, using the scenario of an airline crash. When the real emergency occurred, the response was swift and coordinated. At 4:00 p.m., Flight 232 approached Runway 22 at Sioux City. The aircraft was coming in high and fast, with the crew unable to line up perfectly with the runway centerline. In the final moments, the DC-10 began to roll uncontrollably to the right. The crew applied full power to the right engine to counter the roll, but it was too late. The right wing tip struck the runway first, followed by the right engine. The aircraft broke apart on impact, with the cockpit section separating from the fuselage. The main cabin section flipped upside down and slid across the runway into an adjacent cornfield, where it burst into flames. The crash was devastating, but the survival rate was miraculous. Of the 296 people on board, 184 survived, a survival rate of over 62% in what should have been an unsurvivable accident. The cockpit crew, including Captain Haynes, First Officer Records, Flight Engineer Dvorak, and Dennis Fitch, all survived with injuries. The immediate aftermath was a testament to both human resilience and community response. Passengers helped each other escape the burning wreckage. Jerry Schemmel, who had lost a friend in the crash, went back into the burning aircraft to rescue an 11-month-old baby. Hospital staff rushed to provide care, at times providing 2 doctors for every injured passenger. The investigation that followed revealed the chain of events that led to the accident. The National Transportation Safety Board determined that the fan disc failure was caused by a manufacturing defect, a nitrogen inclusion in the titanium that created a hard alpha defect. This defect acted as a stress concentrator, causing a fatigue crack that grew over 18 years until it reached critical size. But perhaps the most important lessons from Flight 232 were about human factors and crew resource management. The crew's performance became a textbook example of how to handle an unprecedented emergency. They demonstrated clear communication, utilization of all available resources, innovative problem-solving under extreme pressure, and effective leadership in crisis. Captain Haynes later identified 5 factors that contributed to their survival: luck, communications, preparation, execution, and cooperation. The luck was having a DC-10 instructor on board and occurring during daylight hours over flat terrain. The communications were the clear, calm exchanges between crew members and with air traffic control. The preparation was their training and the airport's emergency readiness. The execution was their ability to implement untested procedures under extreme stress. And the cooperation was the teamwork that made it all possible. The legacy of Flight 232 extends far beyond that day in 1989. It revolutionized crew resource management training throughout the aviation industry. It led to design changes in aircraft hydraulic systems, including the installation of hydraulic fuses and backup systems. It demonstrated the importance of airport emergency preparedness and community response. Most importantly, it showed that even in the face of seemingly impossible odds, human ingenuity, teamwork, and determination can triumph. The crew of Flight 232 didn't just land an airplane, they redefined what was possible in aviation. Captain Al Haynes, who passed away in 2019, continued to share the lessons of Flight 232 throughout his life. He often said that the credit didn't belong to him alone, but to the entire crew and the community that responded. "We were just doing our job," he would say with characteristic humility. Today, as we remember United Airlines Flight 232, we honor not just the 112 people who lost their lives, but also the 184 who survived because of extraordinary heroism, teamwork, and the indomitable human spirit. The miracle of Sioux City remains one of aviation's greatest stories, a testament to what's possible when skilled professionals refuse to give up. even when facing the impossible. This has been Amazing Aviation Mishaps. I'm Gary Ray, reminding you that in aviation, as in life, it's often not the challenge that defines us, but how we rise to meet it.